Hello and welcome back. This is Richard Ramos again with Downline University. We're going over the RPM, the Rapid Planning Manual that's available on our website for download. We're going to go ahead and dive right into step number 6. Step number 6 is develop a mindset, a millionaire mindset. The reason we put this thing in here, and again, there's a reason why everything's in a certain order, and we want you to go through this before you go out there and start sponsoring people, is that you have to be in the right frame of mind when you're out there, sponsoring people into a business like this. You want to make sure you have the right attitude, and you're doing it for the right reasons. You want to make sure you have your goals already set. We want to make sure that you have a big enough why. You need to determine what it is that's going to drive you to do this. There's a lot of things that we can do for you. We can give you replicated websites. We can give you all of these tools. We can do a lot of other mentoring. The one thing I cannot do for you, I can't get inside your head. I can't develop that why, that want. If you don't have that, don't even go to this chapter, because you're not going to understand what we're talking about here. Because in this business, it's 90% mental, okay? It's only about 10% effort. And once you understand how this business works and you start making some money and you start realizing how easy it is, you're going to be thinking, shoot, I should have been doing this, 3, 6, maybe 10 years ago, instead of being negative about this particular industry. In this industry, I think it generates, last year, close to $100 billion. Okay, that's a lot of money, guys. And most of these companies, about half of that money gets passed down to the different distributors. Most of these companies, at least, pay you 50%. But the reason you need to have a millionaire mindset is because if you have this mindset that it's going to be really hard, or that you're going to have to go out there and talk to a lot of people, and you have some fear about that, you're not going to succeed. Okay. People that make a lot of money in this world, and that's about 3% of the population, they don't think like the rest of the population. That's the reason they make so much money. Most of those people aren't any smarter than you and I, but they were driven. They had a big enough why. They had an attitude about what they wanted to do. Bill Gates, for example, I used him in a previous example. The guy dropped out of Harvard. Harvard, it's an Ivy League school. Most people in the United States, believe it or not, if you do your research, most people work for college dropouts. So again, it's not about getting a degree. I'm not knocking education, but the fact remains is that a lot of kids, they graduate from high school, they go on to college, they get a degree in liberal arts or something, and unless you're going to be going out there and getting a teaching job, where are you going to go apply that? And again, I'm not knocking education. I'm all for education, but it isn't for everybody. And you really have to determine, as you're going to go out there and spend $130,000 on a college education, what are you going to do with that? Okay, that's why, I tell my kids, I tell everybody else, look, if you're going to college, don't stop at a bachelor's degree. You might as well go another couple of years and get a master's degree, because it's very competitive out there. And especially in this economy with all the layoffs, you got to be at the top of your game, or it's going to get really, really rough. But going back to this whole thing about mindset, something that was really interesting, it was back, I believe, in 1953, Yale University did a study on the graduating class of 1953. They did this survey, and they interviewed all the kids that were graduating from high school that year, and they asked them all, what do you have planned out for your life? What are you going to do over the next 3 to 10 years? How are you going to finish off the rest of your life? What kind of careers are you going into? This was kind of mind-blowing when I first, I'd first seen these numbers thrown around a couple of years ago, but I couldn't figure out where they got those numbers, because everybody throws around these numbers about 3% of the population makes all the money and whatnot. Well, Yale did a study on this to find out really what people do after they graduate from high school. This was very interesting. 20 years later, they went out and they surveyed the surviving members of the class of 1953. In 1973, they went out there and they basically did the exact same study, but in the form of a follow-up. How's your life? How much money are you making? Are you successful? Or, what pitfalls have you had, and so forth. It was mind-blowing. 3% of the graduating class of 1953, their combined income was more than the combined income of the 97%. Guys, do the math on that. That is exponential. And why? Because when they interviewed these kids when they were graduating in 1953, all of these kids, they're not kids obviously at that point, but I mean all these college students when they're graduating, when they graduated that year, the 3% had mapped out the rest of their lives. I mean, they had very specific, very clear goals on what they wanted to accomplish, and they accomplished most of their goals, and it was amazing. That 3% was making at the end of 20 years more than 97% combined. I mean, that's a lot of money, folks, and it's very, very interesting that you know, here at an Ivy League school, I mean, I mean, you know, it's very hard to get into Yale. I mean, it's not like the average person can go to Yale. So obviously, you have kids that are going to Yale right out of high school that are coming from families that are very well off. They already have money, but yet they went to Yale, and they weren't able to develop skills to be able to use the family's money to make more money. So these are the kids, you know, these trust fund babies, you know, that are making money not working. But that 3%, it was interesting how much money that they made. The other thing I'm just going to leave you guys with on this particular section here is it's in the area of mind mapping. A lot of people don't know what that is. Go to Google, type in Tony Buzan. That's B-U-Z-A-N. This is the person that first pioneered the mind mapping technology. A lot of people use it. It may not be for you. I use it. As a matter of fact, I used mind mapping software on my iPhone, and that's where I kind of laid out the whole idea for Downline University when I first created it. And so what mind mapping is it basically teaches you how to map out your ideas in a way where the right side of your brain and the left side of your brain can work together. Because what they found years ago was that our brain gets bored very easily. Okay, not everybody likes to read. And what happens is, and you'll see people, I mean, I have some here around the office, you know, where we write down lists on a piece of paper. And if that list gets over so many lines long, most of the time you don't end up finishing half the stuff that's on the list because your brain starts to get bored. I mean, you don't want to look at it because it's like the list keeps getting longer. Well, when you do it in the form of a mind map, it helps you plan everything out a little bit better where your mind can understand it. And believe it or not, you actually do accomplish a lot more. I use it on all my projects. I used it developing this manual. I used it to develop Downline University. There's software out there that you can purchase. There's a free program called Free Mind Map, I think. Just Google it. Just go to Google and type in free mind mapping software. It's not as advanced as the other programs, but it'll kind of give you an idea how it works. So anyway, I'll go ahead and leave you guys with that. And again, have the right mindset, guys, because if you go out there and if you have a shitty attitude, a crappy attitude, you know, people are going to feed off of that, and those are the type of people you're going to attract back into your business or back into your life. Stay positive, be energetic when you're talking to people. You know, again, you know, find that fire, that burning desire that's inside of you that caused you to jump on board with this, that caused you to download this book and to read it. Because without that, again, you're going to have a hard time. Anyway, best of luck.